Greetings and welcome to the latest edition of the Entheogenic Evolution podcast. As always, I'm your host Martin, and I'm happy to have you with me today. For this week's episode, I'm finally getting around to sharing the talk that I gave in Reykjavik, Iceland last month on Sunday, January 18th at the White Lotus in downtown Reykjavik. It is a rather long talk. It is about 2.5 hours long, so I do invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy. You might want to break it up into a couple different listens. But I've got it here for you today and just a couple notes about it. There was no sound system or anything like that, so it's just an ambient recording that I recorded on my little portable recorder. So the sound quality kind of goes in and out because when I talk in front of a crowd, I do tend to wander around. I do tend to get very active, and this was a very dynamic and playful talk. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on. And there's also some questions from the audience. You might not be able to hear those quite as well. But it's here for you today, and I hope that you enjoy it. Before I share that with you, just a couple of announcements. First, we'd like to thank Nick, who stopped by and made a small contribution in support of the Entheogenic Evolution podcast via PayPal, as Nick likes to do every couple months here and there as he feels it. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. I don't have anybody else to thank this week, but will remind you, as I always do, that if you like this podcast, if you like the information and the talks and the interviews and the music and the audiobooks and everything else that I share here, then I invite you to consider being a supporting member of the Entheogenic Evolution podcast. To do that, just go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/MartinWBall. And if you just want to support the podcast, there's $1 a month, there's $5 a month, there's $10 a month. And once you get up to the $20 a month and up level, that gets you access to the complete Entheogenic Evolution archive of old episodes of the podcast that are no longer publicly available anywhere else. There are probably at least a couple hundred hours worth of talks and interviews and old materials there, some stuff going all the way back to 2009, in the very early days of this podcast. It is not a complete collection, as I did have a hard drive crash in 2020, and I lost a lot of materials, but there's still a lot of stuff over there at the Entheogenic Evolution archive available at my Patreon page. And of course, as you move up from the $20 a month level, at $40 a month, that earns you a 60-minute video call with me after 3 months of support at that level. At the $60 a month level, that gets a 30-minute call every month. And at the $100 a month level, that gets you a 1-hour video call with me every month. And I've had some people ask, yes, they are transferable. If you have paid for an hour consultation or conversation with me and you haven't used it on any particular month, you can transfer it to another month. You can gift it to a friend or a family member. I don't mind. If you've paid for it, you can use it as you like. And of course, there's no obligation at Patreon. You can change your level at any time. You can cancel. You can come and go as you please. But it's a great way to support this podcast, to support me and the work that I do as an independent author and speaker and publisher. It's all very independent. And it's a way for you to get something back in return. And also, there's occasional special offerings at Patreon that only the people who are paying members get access to and stuff like that. So I invite you to consider that. Patreon.com/MartinWBall. And of course, outside of that, if my perspective on entheogens and non-duality and energetic processing, if that resonates with you, and if you're looking for someone to talk to about your experience, I'm always available for 30, 60, or 90-minute video calls. I do specialize in 5-MeO DMT, but I'm not limited to that in any way, shape, or form. You can just stop by at martinball.net for a little more information, or even better, stop by at nondualentheogenicintegration.com, which gives you all the details about my integration services, or you can just shoot me an email at martinwball@gmail.com, and we can set up a time to have a conversation. And this will probably be the last time I mention it, but there is still room in my 5-MeO DMT Integration Specialist course training program with Mindscape Institute, which is set to start on Wednesday, March 4th. It is a 9-week course. It covers everything from 5-MeO DMT phenomenology, what is, quote, normal within the spectrum of reactions and experiences generated by 5-MeO DMT. We cover theoretical materials on the nature of the ego, the interaction with the ego and 5-MeO DMT and non-dual experience and unpacking and examining all of that and really understanding that from a deep perspective. Then we get into topics of how do you hold an integration call? What kind of questions are important to ask? What information do you need in order to best guide your integration clients? Also, what are good listening skills? What are office hours? How do you want to shape your business as an integration coach and guide? We cover all of that kind of material in the class. There is ample readings that are provided. There are supplementary materials. There are videos. And of course, there's the live class that are held 2-hour-long classes on Wednesday afternoons from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. I still have a few scholarship positions available for the course that gets you $750 off the entire course. And if you are a Mindscape student or alumni, you automatically get $500 off the entire course. And I don't ever want price to be a barrier for people. So if you're really interested in the course, but you're not able to pay the tuition at what is listed for the course, just shoot me an email and let's see if we can make an arrangement. I'd like to see you in class. These days, everybody wants to be a facilitator, but integration, it's pretty important. And if you don't know 5-MeO, then you really don't know how to help people integrate their experiences. It really does require a specialized education that this class provides. And you can also stop by at mindscapeinstitute.org, and you can just enter your email and name there and get an automated response with some information about the class. Anyway, that's all I've got to share for today. Again, I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this 2.5-hour long talk. And actually, though, I do have one other thing to mention. Speaking of 2.5-hour long talks, the other week I was invited by Gary Haskins onto his show, The Conscious Perspective, and that was a return guest appearance on my part, and we had a rather lengthy, around 2.5-hour long conversation on his show, and he released that just over this last week. You can find that at the Entheogenic Evolution YouTube channel, where I'm listed as a collaborator on his podcast, and you can also just go to The Conscious Perspective. And just a reminder that there are lots of materials at the Entheogenic Evolution YouTube channel, more than just the podcast, but also links to interviews with me, videos with my music and art and photography, and just a lot of other stuff. Anyway, so just remind you that that's out there as well. And so you can find the talk from The Conscious Perspective there. But maybe that's too much of me. I don't know. That's up to you. Anyway, here's my talk in Reykjavik from January 18th, 2026. I hope you enjoy. All right. Well, I was told that you Icelanders don't show up to things on time, that you show up like any old time you feel like. But apparently you're prompt today, so that's cool. I appreciate that. I'll introduce myself, in case you don't know who I am. I don't know who you are, so I'm just going to go on the assumption that you don't know who I am. So I'll start. I have a couple different ways that I introduce myself. So here's the first way. First way is I am a localized instance of the universal consciousness and being that is everyone and everything that is associated with the personality construct that is known as Martin, that happens to be embodied in this particular physical vehicle that you see before you now. So that's one way of introducing myself. Another way of introducing myself is saying, hi, my name's Martin. Ball, that's the last name. Middle name, Wilmarth. I don't share that very often, but when I go by my author name, I use Martin W. Ball. Not because I like the W, it's actually kind of cool because if you think about it, the M, that's a nice symmetrical letter. W, that's a nice symmetrical letter. And then B, that's a nice symmetrical letter. That's pretty cool. And if you don't know about me and symmetry, you will by the end of this talk, and so you'll know that I think that's kind of cool. But I started using the W when I first started writing. My first book that was publicly available is called Mushroom Wisdom. And at the time, there was another Martin Ball that apparently writes books about Welsh phonetics. And I thought, I need to use the W because I don't know anything about Welsh, so I should distinguish myself from that other Martin Ball. I'm also a musician, and I actually regret that I didn't, most musicians, they don't use their middle name or a middle initial when they put out music, right? A lot of musicians these days, it's just one name, like make it really cool, right? Just just your first name. But anyway, I put out music under the name Martin Ball, and unfortunately, that was in 2006 when I first started with like using a music distribution service that puts your music out on all the digital services out there. And apparently, there's another guy named Martin Ball who, in 2005, put out one album. He's never released another album, and his album is "Come to the Throne." Praise and worship music in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. So here, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'll show you. You won't be able to see, but I'll show you. This has been the bane of my musical life because I didn't use the W. Here's my Apple Music page right there. You can see that's my picture right there. And if you scroll down to the bottom of my Apple Music page, there's Martin Ball, Come to the Throne. There's Robert Gray, Praise. Marty Nordstrom, Praise and Worship. Mark Horner, Praise. Gary Souther, Hail to the King and all. And I've been trying for like 20 years with Apple Music. I write them an email at least once a year, and I say, can you please fix the related artists on my music page? And they say, we'll get back to you soon with a resolution to your problem. Anyway, so that's just my way of saying you might know me as Martin W. Ball. I don't normally use the W. I don't normally use my last name. I also do have a PhD. I use that on some of my books because, it looks cool. And like, oh, the dude has a PhD. Maybe he's smart. I don't know. I know some people with PhDs that are idiots, so it doesn't count for much, but it might look good on a book cover. Some people like to call me Dr. Ball. I don't really like that. I just prefer Martin. So if you want to call me Martin, that's great. Please don't call me Marty. I'm not into shortened nicknames. I like to call people by their full names. And if they do like to go by a nickname, I like to ask, do you mind if I call you that nickname? And I'm not trying to say that any of you are trying to call me Marty because nobody's done it yet. But every once in a while, people do just start calling me Marty. And I say, hey, that's not my name. My name's Martin. So anyway, my name is Martin. You might already have figured out that you might know me as an author. I write books. I write a lot of books. I've written many books. I probably will write some more books at some point in the future. Overall, I do like to refer to myself as a non-dual and theogenic educator because I do a lot of things, and I think that kind of sums it up pretty nicely. So when people ask me, when you meet someone, they always ask, "What do you do?" And I say, well, I'm a non-dual and theogenic educator. And maybe they know the words, and sometimes they don't. So they'll say, non-dual, what's that? And I'll get into that later. So I explain that then. And theogenic. And ethniogenic? And what is that word? And I tell them, so you probably know this other word, psychedelics. Everybody, oh yeah, I know that word. I've been public in the psychedelic world since my book, Mushroom Wisdom, came out in 2006. And it's a different world than it was back then, because in 2006, if I told people, I'm into psychedelics, people would giggle, people would laugh, people would get kind of embarrassed and uncomfortable and say, oh, well, I did a bit of that back in the 60s and 70s, And it's interesting. These days, I was at the dentist's office. And, the dentist says, hey, so what do you do, Martin? And I said, well, I'm a non-dual and theogenic educator. He's like, theogen? Oh, what's that? I said, what's another word for psychedelics? Oh, yeah, well, my cousin's microdosing mushrooms, and, my wife had a few ketamine treatments. So it's a different world. It's a very different world. Or a few years ago, I went in to get glasses. I'll even show you. It's show and tell time, right? I went in to get glasses because, you get older. It's like, shit, stuff in the distance. That's kind of fuzzy. So I went in to get glasses. It's the same thing. The optometrist says, so what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a non-dual and theogenic educator. And theogen, what does that word mean? I'm like, well, it's another word for psychedelics. Like, whoa. Boy, let me tell you, I was watching this crazy show on TV about some guy in Mexico, and he was serving people this toad thing. It's like, oh yeah, that's my friend, Octavio Red. Oh, that was his name. Yeah, they were smoking toad. What's up with that? He said, but you know me, I like peyote. Great. That was my optometrist, right? This is a few years ago. So it's a different world. Anyway, non-dual entheogenic educator. So non-dual, just, we'll talk about it more through the course of this talk. Non-dual means not to. It's interesting that often we don't use words by describing what they're not. We usually try and say what something is, but there's a place for that in language. In the English language, which has its roots all the way back in the Indo-European language family, which also includes Greek and Latin and Sanskrit and what's the language in Persia? Farsi. It's a big language family spread out over a large geographical area. And one of the ways that you can create new words in these languages is that you put a negative in front of a word, and then that's the word. So, for example, in Sanskrit or in Hindi, we have the word Advaita. How many of you have heard the word Advaita, as in Advaita Vedanta? Advaita. Dvaita, which is related to the English word of divide, which also means to separate. You put an A in front of it, and it means not that. So Advaita Vedanta means non-dual Vedanta. And Vedanta is the teachings of the Vedas, which are these ancient Hindu scriptures, formerly an oral tradition, as many religious traditions around the world. So anyway, in English, the word non-dual or non-duality means not dual, not two. And that's a concept that relates to lots of different things. But the way that I'm using it is that within our experience of being, there tends to be a basic duality. And I like to describe it this way. There's me, and then there's everything else that I perceive and experience as being not me. Mm-hmm. So that's other. There's me, and then there's other. And then we also have dualistic morality. Well, that's good. That's bad. That's right. That's wrong. We have, I'm an American, and I don't know about, so the only Icelandic cinema that I've ever seen, it's not really cinema, it's a show on Netflix called, Katla? About the girl who comes out of the volcano. I watched that recently. I don't think I've seen much else in terms of Icelandic TV or movies. Of course, I know Björk. I fell in love with Björk as a teenager. Hear her sing in the sugar cubes, and wow, I like what she's doing. That sounds exciting. Big fan of Monsters and Men. Nice Icelandic band. My wife said, if you run into Nana, just let her know I really like her solo material. So Nana, if you're out there, my wife really loves you. But anyway, American cinema, and I will have to put in British as well, too, there's a lot of just good and bad, We were talking about Star Wars the other day. Well, you got a red lightsaber, you're bad, you're a Sith. You have a blue lightsaber, you're good, you're a Jedi. And it's the light side of the Force versus the dark side of the Force. That's basic duality, right? Or, are you in Slytherin? They're bad. Or are you in Hufflepuff? Well, then you're probably good, right? There's good wizards and there's dark wizards. So the stories that we like to tell ourselves are usually couched in the terms of duality. And these moralistic sense of right or wrong, good and bad, my side versus your side, and they're also often coupled with identity. Which side are you on? And then when we get into philosophy, we go all the way back to the ancient Greeks, and they were trying to figure this shit out. And they said, there's psyche, the mind, and then there's soma, the body. And because, misogyny runs deep in humanity. Psyche, well, that's masculine intelligence. It's very manly to be psyche. Body, it's just like that squishy woman thing. And psyche is ruled by rationality and intelligence and reason and logic. Therefore, I would be a philosopher and I would think about things. And I would not worry about the body. And the body, whoa. Well, again, it's just so feminine, and it's just all about emotion. It's about what you feel. Like women, they just can't think straight because they're just, I'm over here and I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling this, and I'm sad, I'm so happy. Not me, I'm a philosopher and I have a beard. I'm smart, I'm thinking about things. And it got revived by French dude out there smoking a cigarette. What is the nature of being? I think, therefore I am. Je pense, je suis. Very, very good. Yes, yes, the mind-body dualism. And the mind and the body. They do not interact. No. And only the man, only the human man has rationality and consciousness. And the little animals, they have no mind. They have no mind at all. They are purely body. They are purely body. And so, I, great Descartes, I will cut them up and I will see what is inside. And I do not mind that they cry in pain because I know it is all fake. It is just a mechanism. This physical world, it is nothing but inert matter. No. It is the mind. The great French philosopher is the mind, yes. That is what matters. Okay, I'm having fun. I haven't even gotten past non-duality. Shit. Anyway, it's an issue that's been with us a long time. That's kind of my point that I'm trying to get to. It's like it's been around a long time. This whole mind-body thing, duality thing, and, one of the significant parts of duality is that we, human beings, we have this thing called an ego. We'll talk more about what the ego is at some point. But essentially, the ego is this self-referential aspect of human consciousness that allows us to be philosophers because we are self-aware. We know that we are here and that we exist. And this is where Descartes, he's not wrong. He might be too limited. He says, I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. Right? You put it in Latin. Man, that'll make it sound fucking smart. Anyway, I think, therefore I am. So we are self-aware. We're able to say, wow, this is me. I'm here. You seem to be over there. And what the fuck is this? What's going on here? It's like, wow, I can touch that with a little gold ball. Like, what is that? Like, chairs, people, things, air. And, we built telescopes, and we're like, there's stuff up there. Then we built, even bigger telescopes, and we're like, oh, shit, it really goes for a long ways. There's a lot of stuff out there. And, I've been talking with you Icelanders, too, about, Leif and his crew and, anybody else who are out there rowing their boats across the cold ocean. And, I know your Viking ancestors, you get this back in, Scandinavia as well, but you got these northern lights, right? And so, just think about the ancestors, looking up at the lights and it's like, what in the hell is going on? That is so beautiful, but what is it? What is it? What makes it? Now, we have science. We know, these are charged particles coming from the sun, like solar radiation, interacting with the gases in the atmosphere, and it's like, it's beautiful. But anyway, it's the ego that allows us to ask these questions and to have this understanding and this sense of self and to ask really deep questions and stupid questions too, all kinds of questions. But it allows us to contemplate the nature of our existence and the nature of being. And human beings, also as these animals, we come with a couple other pretty cool features that I do like to point out. One, we got these things. Fingers, hands, opposable thumbs. And this gives us the physical ability that we can take apart and reshape physical reality, and we can turn it into pretty much anything that we want, but the only limitation being our level of technological advancement. But other than that, we can remake the world. We can do stuff with it. And we can write things down, and we can make art, and we can create symbols, and we can communicate ideas, and we can build stuff. Like, if you think about it for too long, it's like, who's the first person to think of a chair? Like, who had that idea? Like, how did the chair come into existence? Like, I literally thought of this as like a little kid. I was looking at a chair once. I was like, this was an idea at some point, and now it exists. Like, who did that? Who made that? And now we've got, we've got cell phones. Incredible. We can have the entire library of all human knowledge from all existence accessible through this little rectangle. The ego did that. No egos and no hands? No way. Not going to have a cell phone. Next little bit that's pretty cool. The tongue. We are able to articulate sound in a way that other animals don't seem to have the capacity for. And I'm not saying that animals don't communicate with each other. So, back where I live in the United States of America, we got a thing called prairie dogs. Prairie dogs, they live out there on the prairie. Right? They're not dogs. We call them dogs because we just call shit whatever we want in the United States. Like, pretty soon, you got your Greenland. That's going to be fucking Trump land because we want to call it that. Right? We want to call it the Gulf of Mexico. Fuck that. The Gulf of America. We call shit what we want to call it. So we got prairie dogs. Now, prairie dogs, they live out on the prairie. They're not dogs, again, but I'll tell you, we just call them dogs. Now, the little prairie dogs, they stand up and they make little sounds at each other. And they go like chirp, chirp, and bark, bark, and I don't know what the hell they do. But they make little sounds. Now, the scientists, the little brainiac people, they come in there and they say, let's study what these little dogs are doing. And it turns out, if you wear a big yellow hat, and you walk into the field, them damn little prairie dogs, they can talk to each other, and they say, big motherfucker with a yellow hat coming, get in your hole. And they shout that across and they're, big dude with a yellow hat coming. And the other prairie dogs say, okay, cool, thank you. And they get down in their hole. But it's limited. They don't have like a wide vocabulary, right? They're very, very small. So one prairie dog is never going to come into another prairie dog and say, what's the nature of existence? They can't ask each other that. They don't have the capacity for abstract thought in that capacity. They can identify dude with a yellow hat. That's about it. Okay? Very, very small. Limited. Whales, cetaceans, we're still kind of learning what they're communicating to each other. So they might have a lot to say, but they do have hands. But the problem with their hands, like if you ever see whale bones, they absolutely have hands. Whales have hands. But they're covered in flipper. So a whale is never going to make an iPhone. A whale is never going to write a treatise on philosophy. Is never going to build a Hubble telescope. is never going to create a really cool concert hall that you guys have over here with like all the glass and the lights and stuff. That's really cool. Human beings can do that. So human beings have this amazing capacity. We have this brain that has this ego that says, hey, I'm here. We have the capacity to communicate, to take what is in here, and I can share it out here in your little ears. You can pick up these vibrations, and that's all they are. They're just vibrations, just energy. And your brain says, wow, I know what he's saying. And, I'm lucky because I'm from the United States of America, and I speak English, and, you guys all learn English, but if I had to talk to you in Icelandic, it wouldn't work. So I'm lucky that way. And maybe when I talk in a funny accent, maybe it makes it a little bit difficult for you. I don't know. I apologize if it does. I get a little excited, so I can't help myself. But hopefully, these vibrations that I'm making, your brain is interpreting into words, and you're saying, wow, I get what he's talking about. I understand. And I could also get on the computer and I can... And a couple weeks later, there's a book. And then you can go on the internet and purchase. The book comes to you and interesting. Or, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Anyway, it's just all my way of saying that as a human being, we're pretty darn special. And the duality of the ego in the sense of self and other, sense of world, me and not me, this is a really profound thing, and that human beings have been contemplating and talking about it and essentially inventing philosophies and religions and spiritualities and cultures and politics and societies and building temples and monuments and creating art and music and myth and theater and drama and trying to communicate what the hell is going on, what do we understand about this, how do we share this experience with each other and create meaning out of all of this. That's the human gift, and it's also the human problem. The problem is that a lot of times when we've asked those questions, we've just made up a bunch of shit and then said, yeah, that stuff is true. And everybody who doesn't believe that, they're wrong, and they're pagans, and they're heathens, or they're infidels, and let's go kill them, shall we? Yeah, let's do that. Us against them. Because we do love duality. We love duality, we love tribal identity. We love anything that reinforces that ego. Me and mine. We're going to get what's ours, screw everybody else. It's a fundamental human problem. Still on the word non-duality. Anyway, non-dual theogenic educator. Entheogen, going back to, that is another word for psychedelic. Even right there, psychedelic, we have a bias. Psyche, delic, two Greek words. We've already covered our bases. Psyche means mind. Delic means to generate or give rise to. So a psychedelic is something that gives rise to the mind, generates the mind, the psyche. It really misses the soma part of the experience, the embodied part of the experience. But anyway, back in the 60s and 70s, psychedelic was actually introduced to... There were earlier terms that were used. One was just hallucinogen. That word was in circulation, and hallucinate means to see something that's not there. And psychedelics can do that. Okay, this is a fun one. One time I was at home on my own taking quite a bit of MDMA. Quite a bit, I'll be honest, it was quite a bit. And I was lying on the bed, listening to headphones, listening to music. This is so groovy. I've got to pee. That means I've got to make it to the bathroom. How am I going to get there? Oh man. Take out the headphones. There's a big ball of letters in different fonts in the middle of the room. just like floating there in the middle of the room. Like Helvetica, Comic Sans, Times New Roman. Walked around it, because you don't want to disturb the big ball of letters. I mean, they're doing their thing, right? Leave the ball of letters alone. Sitting on the toilet. Okay, how do you pee again? What muscle is that? What's that? Seriously, I'm sitting on the toilet, and I'm looking out, and what is that? And then there's this big translucent crab-like bug. I was like, that's weird. And like, oh look, there's another one. Like one flies in, and like flutters down, and like closes its wing, and they're big. These are big bugs. It's like, whoa, MDMA bugs. They're big. Okay. Like, oh, there's the muscle. Okay, pee. Oh, the bugs are doing their thing. That's interesting. Bugs. Who knew? Okay. All right. Oh, I can get back to bed now. Get back. Like, there's the ball. Walk around the ball of letters. Okay. Get back in bed. Put the headphones back on. Oh yeah, that's what it's about. Anyway, so yeah, sometimes you see shit that's not there. So hallucinogen, that works as a word. But anyway, that was one of the words. Another word was psychomimetic. And this is where psychiatrists are like, yes, if we give the patients LSD. Okay, so I fucked it up. I was trying to do German and it went into French anyway. I haven't practiced my accents in a while. Anyway, various European researchers were like, if we give patients LSD, they go fucking crazy. And so we can study psychosis by dosing people. So these are psychomimetics, right? So you give people these substances, they go crazy for a little while, and then eventually they regain their sanity, hopefully. So we can study psychosis in the lab by dosing people. And then the next wave is psychedelic. But then this word psychedelic, it bled out into American counterculture. It's like, hey man, that's really groovy, like psychedelic, man, like cool. Want to go to the Dead show and drop some acid? So it kind of got overused, and also around this time, in the 60s and 70s, this is where banana chocolate milkshake is sweet. This is where what are called anthropologists, people who study people, and ethnopharmacologists and ethnobotanists, they started going around to traditional cultures around the world and say, look, they're taking the plants, they're eating the mushrooms, and they're doing things with them. Isn't that amazing? And they're having visions. And the early accounts are always, and they think they talk to the gods, and they believe they are in contact with the ancestors. Silly natives, so primitive. Let's study this so we can understand the nature of primitive man. And then some of them said, hey, you know what, we need to use a different word, because hallucinogen, that's not really describing what's going on here. These people are not just seeing things. And psychomimetic, they're not crazy. There's just a different cultural makeup going on here. And psychedelic, that term has now been overused. It's associated with hippies and rock music and hedonism and smoking the devil's weed and that kind of stuff. So they introduced a new term of entheogen, which is another Greek-based neologism. And we can break it down into 3 parts. In, theo, God, gen, as in, like the book of Genesis, to generate or to give rise to. So entheogen means something that generates the experience of God or the divine within. And these researchers wanted to identify that, particularly when used in these indigenous cultures, in these spiritual healing contexts and traditional contexts, that these were used not for having a good time and partying and being hedonistic, but communing with the sacred and having a spiritual experience and creating unity among tribal members, and for purposes of initiation and for divination and healing and all kinds of very interesting things. So that's where we get the word entheogen. Okay, so that's word number 2. Educator. Okay, so you're probably already getting the idea that I like to talk, I like to communicate, and I like to educate people. So that's fairly self-evident and obvious, and hopefully I don't need to explain that any further. Do I?
No.
No, don't think so. Shit, I haven't even really introduced myself yet. Anyway. Get to the talk, man. Get to the topic. So, I use that non-dual entheogenic educator because that's what I try and do, is educate people about how entheogens can be used to generate non-dual experiences, so that you can come to understand who and what you actually and truly are beyond the facade of the human identity and the human body and the human ego. And at a more practical level, so just in case you're wondering, if you have heard the word non-dual or non-duality associated with psychedelics in general, in any capacity, or with 5-MeO DMT in particular, just so you know, that's because of me. Literally. Before I started talking this way and using these words, this term was never used in psychedelic culture anywhere in the world that I'm aware of. So I started on my mission in 2006 when, I published my book, Mushroom Wisdom. And then I made a big life choice and big life decision in late 2007. And I ended up moving to a little town in southern Oregon. I moved up from Southern California to a little town in southern Oregon called Ashland. Nobody knows why it's called Ashland. I mean, we do have volcanoes nearby, but they've been dormant for a long time. There are no ashes there in Ashland. So you got me. I don't know why it's called Ashland. Don't ask me. I don't know. Anyway, it's a little town kind of up in the mountains. Super cool, really beautiful. And within a month of having moved there, this guy contacts me. And at that time, I had a theme camp at Burning Man that I called the God Box. And I made it as a joke. So, there's another little bit of context and background. I have my PhD in religious studies from the University of California, Santa Barbara. And, at that point in my life, I did identify as a spiritual seeker, just to make everything clear now. I'm not a spiritual seeker anymore. When you find what you've been looking for, like, stop looking, because then that's just your identity and it's kind of a waste of time. I have found what I was looking for. Sorry, Bono. I love the song. But I have found what I'm looking for. And Bono, if you want to come over, I think we might be able to help you out. But anyway, just putting that out there for all the U2 fans. Which, honestly, that's always been a weird name for a band, because in the United States, the U2 is a spy plane. Mm-hmm. And Bono is like, no more war, right? And it's like, but dude, you named your band after a spy plane. Like, what the fuck? What are you doing? I don't know. I don't know the story about that. Anyway, so I had this theme camp at Burning Man, and I made it as a joke. I grew up non-religious, secular, materialist household. Scientific materialist. My dad's a chemist. My mom had studied anthropology. We went to UC Berkeley. They were not hippies. They were there in the hippie era, but they were not hippies. My dad said he did acid once. My mom listens to my podcast. My mom has specifically told me, there is no way that I want to know what the hell is going on inside me. No way. But she's interested, but not at that level. My mom is like, just let me get to my grave without having to confront the demons. Thank you very much. Anyway, the God Box. So I created this theme camp, and it was this absurd little thing where you came into our camp, and the first thing you had to do is you had to sign the oath. And the oath was that we do have a God Box. We do have something inside this box. I guarantee you that this is real, and you are going to enter into the lair of the mystic toad, and you're going to open the God Box, and you're going to see what is inside. But you may not reveal to anyone else what is inside this box. If you do, you risk divine punishment and holy wrath. And I would give this little speech, and then all the other theme camps around us, they would get into it. So they'd go, holy wrath! Everybody would yell that out. It was a lot of fun. And the people were like, oh shit, I've got to sign this thing? Yeah, you've got to sign it. So you sign, you agree, I'm not going to tell anybody what's in the God Box. And then, next step is I'd bring you a book. And I'd say, okay, once again, I do want to remind you, this is a God Box. There is something inside this box. You are going to open this box. You're going to see what is in this box. So, this is your chance. This is the Book of Confessions. This does not mean that you need to confess anything or that you have ever done anything wrong. What this means is that this is your chance to put down in words anything that you feel that you need to say, reveal, or just get out and put down on paper before you have your face-to-face encounter with God. And I do want to remind you, we do have something inside this box. You are going to have this experience. So I advise you to think carefully, and then you can write in the Book of Confessions. Are you ready? Yes, okay, here you go. If you've ever been to Burning Man, a lot of people are tripping at Burning Man, and they're like, whoa. Oh, shit. Then from there, when it's your turn, you move into the purification dome, and you get a nice didgeridoo purification, and you get the holy spritzer bottle. You are now ready to enter into the lair of the mystic toad. And then you'd have to crawl. You'd have to crawl, and then you pull up this flap, and you go into this little tiny dome. And there's little sparkly Christmas lights all in there. And my original idea was I want to buy it's kind of inspired by Indiana Jones, right? It's I want a big box with big golden eagles on it, and this really this ark box, and you open this box, and the light comes out, and there's the sound and everything. You open the box, and it reveals what's in the box. And I went looking for a box like that, and A, I couldn't find it, and B, the closest things I could find was I'm not spending $3,000 on a joke box. No. So what I ended up doing is I bought a mailbox. So do you guys have mailboxes here in Iceland? So United States, it's kind of it's flat on the bottom, it's kind of arched like that. It's like a tube, and it's got it goes down like that, and you put a little flag up if you have your mail in it, and the mailman knows, okay, come get the mail out of the mailbox and close it. So I had these big green foam feet. I was I know what I can do with this box. So I attached the big green foam feet to the mailbox, and then I painted it all green, and I put these big styrofoam eyes on it. Then I attached all these little plastic jewels, and I put some glittery antenna on it, and I was it's the mystic toad! This is not intentional. It just... Okay. So I had actually started putting music online at mp3.com, which maybe some of you might remember is one of these early digital places where you could put music and steal music and shit like that. And you could create radio stations. there, and so I created a few different radio stations that I called Mystic Lizard Radio. And for me, that comes from my experiences with mushrooms, that if the mushrooms are strong, within about 10 minutes of having ingested the mushrooms, if you look at carpet in particular, it's like that M.C. Escher, how like patterns repeat and interrelate to each other. And for me, they kind of look like lizards. Like if within 15 minutes I can see the quote mystic lizards in the carpet, then I know like this one's going places. But if I'm waiting around an hour, the carpet's not doing anything yet, it's probably a dud. So anyway, that's where that came from. But I made this thing, but it didn't have a tail. So I couldn't call it a mystic lizard. So I was like, okay, the mystic toad. So anyway, you'd go into the lair of the mystic toad. You would open up the mouth of the mystic toad and you would look inside. And then I had a mirror in there. And I made this as a joke. I thought it would be funny. I thought it'd be fun. And the first year I did it, I and my campmates, we were astounded. I mean, people were coming out and they're crying. It's like, that was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. I was like, oh shit. Like, people are really taking this seriously. And then some people would come out and they would just hug us, and then they'd run away, and I'm like, oh, there they go. But then an hour later, they'd come back and there's 20 people with them, and they're like, you've all got to open the goddess, and you got to go in the lair of the mystic toad. But anyway, this is the fun part of my life story. So I moved to Ashland, Oregon, and I had a description of the lair of the mystic toad on a website, which I had for myself at that point, a personalized website. And I didn't have any jobs, so I applied, for anything and everything that I thought might work. And so I applied for a job at this record company in Medford, Oregon, like this indie punk rock record company. And after I submitted my resume, this dude calls me up on the phone. He's like, we're just looking for some snot-nosed kid for this job. Like, you have your PhD. Like, why the hell are you even applying for this job? Like, you are way too qualified for this. He said, but, what's that mystic toad you've got on your website? And I said, well, it's a mailbox. And he counters with, well, I've got the real thing if you'd like to try it. Now, by this point, I had heard of the Sonoran Desert Toad. I had heard of 5-MeO DMT. I didn't know what it was in any capacity. And also, I will just say, because I'm still trying to introduce myself, when I moved to Ashland, one of the things I started doing was my podcast, the Entheogenic Evolution podcast, which is, I'm now proud to say, I've been doing this for 18 years. It's probably the oldest, longest-running psychedelic-related podcast in the world at this point, maybe. I don't know, but I think maybe, because I've been doing it a long time. And so he's like, oh, yeah, I see, you're starting this podcast, and like, oh, well, you've got to come try this toad, man. You got to do it. I said, okay. So I went over to this guy's house, and he had some of these Sonoran Desert Toads. How many of you have heard of the Sonoran Desert Toad? Let's just be honest. Yes. How many of you have experienced the Sonoran Desert Toad? Maybe a few of you. Yes, just a few of you. Excellent. So it's an interesting toad. Now, toads secrete. It's not venom. Everybody calls it venom. Let's just, linguistically, let's be accurate. Venom is something that is injected into you via a bite or a sting. That is venom. Rattlesnakes. You guys don't have rattlesnakes here. Rattlesnakes, they have venom. They bite you and you die. That's venom. Wasps, bees, they sting you and ow, that hurts. That is venom. Toads do not go around biting you. They do not inject you with venom. Nobody smokes toad venom. That's stupid. This is not venom. But they do produce secretions that are protective in nature. They are designed so that any predator who goes and oh, what the? Spit that toad out. Go away. Like, and then, maybe I will bite that toad again. But toads in general, they produce a thing that's called bufotenine. Bufo is Latin for toad, and so bufotenine is just the secretion of a toad. And at a molecular level, that is 5-hydroxy dimethyltryptamine, 5-HO-DMT. That's what toads in general produce. From a neurobiological standpoint, we could basically call it a neurotoxin. It is chemically designed to make you go, right? So it's a deterrent to predators. Like, you don't want bufotenine. But there's this one toad, this great big fat toad, the largest toad in North America. It lives in the American Southwest and northwestern Mexico in a place called the Sonoran Desert. And for like 9 months out of the year, it lives underground in the dirt. And then in the summer is the monsoon season, and the rains come in from, let's go ahead and name it, the Gulf of Mexico. And it rains, and that dry dirt turns into mud, and the toads come out, and they're like, hey, baby, you ready to get it on? Why don't you come on back to my place? We'll have a little toad party. So it's mating season, and they come out, and then they make little chirping noises at each other. And then people come along and go, catch a toad. And you can squeeze the toad, and okay. Some people like popping pimples. Anybody here like popping pimples? It's okay, don't be shy. Okay, a couple of you. There can be a satisfaction in popping a pimple. Like, when I get a pimple, I'm out. Sorry, Jessalyn, I'm recording this. Jessalyn is my wife, but she's like, don't pop it. Let me pop it. I want to pop it. One time I popped a pimple before she could get to it. She was so mad. And she's like, I wanted to pop this pimple. Sorry, I love you. But it's kind of like squeezing like the ultimate pimple. You know, like, and all this white milky stuff comes out. And the way that it's done is you squeeze it onto a piece of glass, and then that will dry into like an amber color crystalline substance, and then you take a little razor blade and go, and then you get all these flakes, and then you have toad venom. No, it's toad secretions. So this is the only toad in the world, but not the only living being in the world. It's the only toad in the world that makes 5-methoxy dimethyltryptamine rather than just 5-hydroxy dimethyltryptamine. So the little extra bit that I said in there about it's not the only being. If you were to milk a human, we're talking about something quite different if you're milking a human. So you can't milk humans for their 5-MeO-DMT. But each and every one of us has a very small trace amount of 5-MeO-DMT inside our bloodstreams and in our cerebral spinal fluid right now. All of us naturally produce 5-MeO-DMT. That's part of the mammalian neurotransmitter makeup. All of us have 5-MeO-DMT inside of us. But we can't just squeeze it out. I've got your 5-MeO. We can't do that. It's just very, very small trace amounts. I don't even know how many people we'd have to boil down to their 5-MeO essence to get a dose. But mammals, we have it inside us. We also have another related tryptamine that is called DMT, dimethyltryptamine. So just for scientific amazingness, DMT is based on this hexagonal molecular structure that's got a little thing here, and it's got another thing here, and it's got a little tail like a bloop over there. I'm not a chemist. Could you tell? And on the hexagon, there are different positions. And if we start with DMT, if we put a hydroxy group on the 4 position, 4-HO-DMT, we could go get that. We can wander out into your fields in the summer and we can pick your little brown mushrooms, and those contain 4-HO-DMT, which is much friendlier than 5-HO-DMT, which again is mostly a neurotoxin, but if it's at the 4 position, then that makes it psilocybin, and that means you can eat it and you can trip. Cool. LBMs, little brown mushrooms. But if we put a methoxy group on the 5 position rather than a hydroxy group on the 5 position, rather than just being some like nasty neurotoxin, suddenly we have the most amazing and profound molecule that happens to exist in this universe. You have 5-MeO-DMT. Anyway, so it's in the secretions of this toad. So the guy who says like, "You want to come smoke my toad?" "Yeah, man, I'll smoke your toad." It wasn't enough. So I went over to this guy's house, and he gave some to me, and he saved some for him. And he told me, like, "Yeah, this will be a rocket ship straight into the heart of God." Okay, prove it. So we smoked some toad. I mean, technically we vaporized it. And in today's parlance, there would be what is called a handshake dose. Book promo time. Just my latest very small book project. I brought this with me because it's thin and it fit in my suitcase because I had to bring a lot of warm clothes and like not a lot of extra space. I created a glossary of terms related to 5-MeO-DMT for, I actually made it for my students, but then decided like, it'd be fun to put some art in there and like just put it out into the public for anybody who wants it. So these days in the 5-MeO-DMT world, it's broken down into a small dose, like introductory dose, is called a handshake. Hello, nice to meet you. Oh, my God. That's an introduction. And then a moderate-sized dose is a hug, which, is, nice to meet you. Great. Cool. Oh, it's all good. Versus a large dose is a full embrace. Okay? Come on. Thank you.
Only because I'm small you can do that.
So that was a handshake dose. And after 20 minutes, I sat back up, and my very good friend, he wasn't then. He was just some dude I met. It's like, dude, come to my house and smoke my toad. But he's my very good friend. He's like, where'd you go? And I was like, nowhere. He's like, oh, really? And I said, man, I've been smoking enhanced leaf Salvia divinorum for years now. Anybody here ever tried Salvia divinorum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A few of you. Weirdest fucking shit in the known universe. Especially if you're smoking enhanced leaf Salvia divinorum, where they extract the salvinorin A and then they add it to the raw leaves so that it's extremely potent, and you take one hit and within a few seconds, this is the way it works for me. There's this big zipper that goes right through the middle of reality, and it goes zip, it unzips. And then behind that, there's like multiple dimensions, and they're interpenetrating, and they're crossing each other, and they're like, and it like pops you in one place, you're like, oh, I've always been here, of course. And then for some people, it's like, I'm the paint on the wall. I'm the paint on the wall. I think I've been here forever. I think it's still forever. I'm the paint on the wall. Why am I the paint on the wall? This is kind of concerning. How do I get back to not being the paint on the wall? And then a few minutes later, reality goes zip, and you're like, oh, that's right, I'm at the White Lotus. What the hell is that? So that was my personal model of like a short-acting, powerful psychedelic. And this toad thing, it was like, so what? So I said, dude, come to my house. I'm going to give you some salvia. And I did. And like salvia often does, he smoked it and boom, it just pushed him over. And then after he's like, what the fuck was that? He's like, yeah, I showed you. But anyway, a month later, he calls me up again. He's like, dude, I've got a new vaporizer. It's called The Lamp. It's amazing. And I've got some pure freebase 5-MeO DMT. I want you to come try some of this. So, I'm game, I'm cool, I'm all about it. Like, yeah, why not? I'll give this thing a try again. So, anybody ever seen The Lamp? Some of you have, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, great. It's a specialized vaporizer that is designed by a 5-MeO DMT enthusiast, where you have a large glass chamber that is filled with argon gas, which is an inert gas, which means that when you fill the chamber with argon, it is not possible to burn the 5-MeO DMT because there is no oxygen present, and it will vaporize, and then you are able to, there's this little piston or this little thing that goes down like that, and then you've got your hit. So anyway, this guy brings me over. He contests this. I believe he told me that he put 25 milligrams in. He says, I wouldn't have given you that much. And we've argued about other times where, like, I insist, like, dude, you told me you put 32 in. Because one time he served me, and I was like, dude, you dosed me, man. Like, that was big. And how much did you put in? 32 milligrams. He will insist that he did not do that. But anyway, that's okay. We can have differences of opinion. But anyway, whatever it was, this chamber, I'm on the launch pad in the Temple of Awakening Divinity, Toad, and I'm taking this hit, and I get down to about right here. And oh my God, thank you, God, thank you. And that was it for the next 45 minutes or so. And it was the most amazing experience of my life. It was beyond what I ever could have imagined. It was beyond possible. It was beyond infinite. And for someone, okay, I was one of these people that, like, if you use the word God, I say, Can we talk about, like, universal consciousness or something, or just, like, Buddha mind, or like something, but like, don't use the word God. But what came out of my mouth? Oh my God, it's God. And I had recently left my wife, and I called her up the next day, and it was like, I just experienced God last night. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I mean, it was God. I mean, it was God. It was this. It was like I'm stumbling for words, but I died, and everything that I thought I was just dissolved away, and then there was this infinite white light that spread out in front of me, and it was rainbow refracted at the edges. And it was consciousness, and it was alive, and it was made out of pure love, and it was aware, and it was me. It was what I was. It was the truth of my being. It was all of reality. It was every moment. It was eternity. It was this. This is it. This is it. This is what I've been looking for my entire life. And it's actually me. It's what I am. Thank you. 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 And that was it. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Put that song away because I just found it. Holy shit. This is it. This is what humanity has been looking for the entire time. This is what every religion, every philosophy, every culture, every person, this is it. Holy shit. This molecular crystal key that unlocks the secret of reality. It's been here the entire time. And it's in a motherfucking toad. Oh my God. What sneaky son of a bitch put it in a toad? Nobody suspects a toad. It's in the toad. It's in the toad. It's in me. It's in you. It's in all of us. I need to tell everyone. I need to tell everyone. Oh my God. Humanity needs to know. I need to tell everyone. It's here. It's here. It's been here all along. Any one of us can have this experience. It's not just me. Yeah, you know what? I'm God. But so is everybody else. It's us. It's us. It's always been us. It's not some fucking dude out there saying, I like what you did. Reward. You? Smite. Smite for you. Wrath for you. Chosen for you. It's right here. It's right here. It's right now. It's right here. This is it. And it's just a molecule. That's all that you need is this molecule and bing. So, I got on my podcast, which was still pretty new at the time. Oh, banana chocolate. I got on my podcast and I said, is that the dog? Oh, I'm sorry I'm boring you, Yoda. No, it's all right. I do. Steve Buckles. Beans of my tummy. It's okay, I love dogs. God dog. I had a client who said that once, like infinitely. God dog, God dog. God dog, 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 God dog. Anyway, that's an aside. So I got on my podcast and I told the world, well, not really the world, but anybody who was listening, like my little audience of my podcast, and I said, hey everyone, I want you to know that there's this thing called 5-MeO DMT. And it's the God molecule. And oh shit, did people not like that? I said, this is the God molecule. This is the most profound entheogen on the planet. There is nothing that compares to this. Because this is the only thing that I know of that gives direct and immediate access to the non-dual experience. So we're going back to that word now. Because in that moment, I am reality. I am life. I am love. I am everyone. I am everything. I am eternal. I am that which is. There's no longer me and not me, self and other, me and the world. There is the all-encompassing totality of that which is, and it is singular. There is one universal being and consciousness, and it is everyone and everything, including everything that is happening right here in this very moment. And I said, nothing compares to this. This is the crown jewel. This is the peak. This is the epitome. This is the apex of human experience. There is nothing beyond this. Now that was in early 2008. Almost no one in the world knew what 5-MeO-DMT was. A few people have heard of it. And you know what they did is they contacted me and they said, well, Terence McKenna said that 5-MeO-DMT is just a feeling and not very interesting, whereas on DMT, he really hallucinates and he sees the machine elves and the transcendental object at the end of time. And my response was, yeah, because he's tripping his ego and he's full of shit and he doesn't know what he's talking about. How dare you defame our prophet and savior, Terence McKenna? Everybody knows that DMT is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. Terence told us so. And don't use the word God, that's offensive. More chocolate banana. But anyway, it's a different world now. But it was at that point that I started trying to explain to people what non-duality was, what I mean by the word God, what 5-MeO-DMT is, and how it works. And my experience with it over that next year or so, year and a little bit plus, I do like to admit that, first of all, from my first experience, I didn't fully understand it. Because for me, I took it and instantly, this is it. And it was just, I thought it's not possible to have an easier psychedelic experience to work with. Because all you got to do is take it, and then reality fully reveals itself to you. And I thought, this is great. That's just what it does. But at the time, I was being served in my friend's temple, and he often liked to serve in groups. And so I kept coming back once a month or once every couple months. And then I started to observe other people. And I really quickly learned, not everybody is able to let go the way that I was able to let go. And I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying that there's a difference. And then I also noticed, not everybody is actually fully aware of what their experience is. People are describing these whiteouts and these blackouts and they don't remember, but I've never experienced that. And then, some people fight all the way through. Some people find this horrifying and terrifying. And some people find this really, really difficult. So it's not as easy as I thought. It was important for me to learn that my experience was not necessarily going to be everyone's experience. But I also did learn if somebody can trust, if they can let go, if they can surrender, and if they can maintain what I like to call the through line of awareness, they will come back and they will say the same thing that I said. Holy shit, I just experienced God, and I think it's me. And I also learned it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how you were raised. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter what you don't believe in. It doesn't matter what political party you identify with. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter whose pole or hole you like to enjoy and which way you want to use it in any capacity. None of that matters. If you can let go, surrender, trust, and allow, and maintain that awareness, you will arrive at the exact same conclusion that I did. This is a universal experience. Again, not everyone gets that experience right away. Might be many times before they actually get that experience. Some people might not ever get the experience, but the potential is there. And the potential is there in a way that it simply isn't with most other psychedelic compounds. Also, let's be really honest. For most people, you could even spend 40, 50 years sitting on your butt on a meditation cushion. You will never have an experience that even remotely is like this. In the time period where I did facilitate 5-MeO sessions with people, I had a number of people who were self-proclaimed lifelong meditators. A few of them, this experience scared the living shit out of them. And then for the few who said, yes, I've had a very powerful non-dual experience via meditation, once I gave them 5-MeO DMT and their ego came back, they said, not like that. Oh no, that was beyond what I ever could have imagined. So I've always been insistent that, that's great if you've had a spontaneous experience or you've had an experience through tantric sex or through meditation or through whatever it is. I guarantee you, this is beyond that. And then some people say, well, that's cheating. You're cheating. You're taking a drug. It's like, it's just a molecule. Like, get over it. Who are you to judge? Because, right now your brains are producing serotonin, which is a molecule that's related to 5-MeO. DMT is the same basic molecular structure. It's just tweak it a little bit, turns into 5-MeO. And every night you go to bed and your brains produce melatonin, which also is an almost identical molecule. It's just tweaked a little bit. And like if somebody would say, yeah, I went to sleep last night, it's like, you cheated, your body used melatonin. I want you to go to sleep without melatonin. But that's how it works. Or, I had thoughts, and I felt good about it. Did you use serotonin? Well, yeah, that's what my brain produces when I think thoughts. You cheated. I want you to do it without serotonin. We are molecular, chemical, energetic beings. Like, that's how we have an experience of reality. It's not cheating. It's how things work. It's pretty basic. And so here's my theory also as well. Now, when you go all the way, into the 5-MeO DMT experience, I got to wear one of the special caps once, with all the little electrodes and about it. I looked like an amanita mushroom because it was all red and had like polka dots on it. And when you go all the way, your brain goes into gamma wave states. These are pretty rarefied brain waves. Most people don't ever really get to experience gamma waves. Alpha, beta, these are normal, everyday waking consciousness waves. Beta is when I'm kind of like hyper alert a little bit. Alpha is where, okay, I'm alert, but I'm a little bit more relaxed. It's cool. Alpha, man, yeah. If you're a little bit too much beta, you might go to the psychiatrist and say, might you prescribe me some beta blockers? And yeah, we can do that. And then that shifts you more into alpha. And okay, I'm cool. When we're going into sleep and dreaming, we're going into delta and theta waves, which are slower waves, more relaxed. But highly experienced meditators and also peak athletes, peak musicians, peak performers, they go into gamma waves. These are the fastest, most coherent brain waves that our brain can produce. So you might, maybe if you've had 5-MeO DMT, you might be aware that that is an ultra-fine, ultra-fast vibration. Just by comparison, if you've had Salvia divinorum, I don't know what the brainwaves of Salvia Divinorum are, but salvia is a bit in this range of reality. It's way down there. Whereas 5-MeO is just infinite, very, very fine vibrations. So my particular theory is that if we were to do a blood draw of an advanced meditator or peak performer or peak musician in that peak gamma wave brain state, there's probably a higher concentration of 5-MeO DMT in their blood at that time, because again, your body can produce it. It is not cheating. It is part of our biological molecular structure. It's normal. It's natural in that sense. More chocolate banana. Quick time check, because I ramble on forever. Sorry, 12:31. I'll wrap it up soon, and then we'll just open to questions and comments and whatever you guys want to talk about. Yeah. So, I guess this is still part of the introduction of myself. Shit. I really made it that was going to be a priority, is that I want to communicate to the world about what 5-MeO DMT is. And so, like, the title that we gave for this talk is Your Divine Right. And I like to use that language. I like to use the language of God, divine right. But please understand, I'm not what you would describe as a spiritual person. I refer to myself as more as like if people say like what's your spirituality? I would just like reality. Like that. I'm just interested in reality. I'm not whatever you think spirituality is. I'm just interested in reality. And that I think it's a fundamental human right that you as a human being, you have a right to know. I mean, this is the big reveal, right? You're God. I don't care if you believe that or not. I don't care if you think that that's an accurate statement or not. It's the way things are. There is one universal consciousness and being that is parading around in this really fun game of hide and seek. And one way I like to put it is that there's only one actor. There are billions and billions of characters, but there's only one actor. And that actor is so good that it forgets that it's acting and really believes that it's just the character that it's performing as. It's like the ultimate method actor. It's like, just don't break character, don't break character. Just go in all the way. And that's what's really going on here. And I think that that's important for human beings to know, because again, going back to that duality, we like to divide ourselves into us and them, me and you, right and wrong, good and bad. And we've been playing that game for a long time as human beings. And we're in Iceland, I mean. Like my Iceland friend Helgi, who couldn't be here today because he's feeling a little wiped out today. He was going to play some guitar for us. He said, well, Viking culture is great, but, there's the raping and pillaging thing, because that's part of the us and them. It's like, hey, we're bigger, we're stronger. You think that shit's yours? How about a little raping and pillaging, right? It's ours. And there's a certain level of fun to that. Games. This is the interesting thing, that the more intelligent a being is, the more it enjoys games. Like, they've done magic tricks for chimps. They fucking love it. Oh my god, if you can do a magic trick in front of a chimp, it blows their minds, and those chimps, they just go, in America we say, like, ape shit crazy, right? They love it. They love it. Oh my god, they love it. They love playing a game. Or if you've got a dog, like my dog, she's old, she's got a lot of arthritis. So it's hard for her now. But what she would do is she'd take the ball and then she'd take her nose and she'd roll the ball. She'd look at you, look at the ball, look at you, look at the ball, look at you, look at the ball, look at the ball, and then you throw the ball, bring it back. Roll it to you, ball like that. Throw it again, okay? Dolphins. Oh man, they love to play. Oh, so much fun to play as a dolphin. I was just recently in Costa Rica with my wife and my son, and we went out on this little boat ride. And it was just us and the tour guide and the boat driver and these little dolphins. They're pretty small, only about like this big. They come up in this big pod, and the guy's like, "Oh, watch this!" And he like floors the boat, and then they just start leaping. They're like in the boat wake, and then they're from the boat, and then they're like spinning around in the air. Love playing. And then we're like orcas. You guys have orcas around here? Mm-hmm. You know what they like to do with like seals and salmon, right? Mm-hmm. It's like they don't just eat them. It's like, hey, want to play catch? Boom! They flip the seal. Woo! Go in the other one, flips the seal back. They play volleyball with seals. And apparently, like, there's a group of orcas somewhere that like to wear dead salmon hats. It's become like a fashion thing. Like see my dead salmon? Pretty cool, huh? I got it at Sotheby's. So the more intelligent a being is, the more prone it is to enjoy play, to have a thrill of deception. And we've even done studies now that certain birds, like the corvids, ravens, like Odin's favorite bird, they're smart as fuck, man. They are smart. They like to play games. They know how to trick each other. They know how to lie. Chimps also, they know how to lie. They know how to play games. The more intelligent the being, the more it likes to play games. There is a supreme intelligence, and it is playing the master game of reality chess with itself. But just like if you're sitting down, if you're playing a game of chess with yourself, it's a lot easier to play a game of chess against somebody else. Because, like, you know what your next move is going to be. It's really hard to play a game of chess against yourself. It's a lot easier if we could pretend, not just pretend, but really believe that's not me over there. I don't know what that one's going to do. It makes the game more interesting. How much fun is the game?
Best game ever.
Best game ever. And who is it?
It's me.
It's me. So we've got the best game ever going on. And it includes joy, and it includes tragedy. It includes success, and it includes failure. It includes ecstasy, and it includes pain. If there were no stakes, what the fuck would be the point of playing the game? That's boring. If it's not life or death, if it doesn't mean something, if it doesn't grab you like, shit, this really means something, there's no point playing the game. It's just boring. The ultimate intelligence is playing a game with itself. And like it or not, we're the pawns. We are the vehicles through which the game is played. And we, because it is us, we are it, we don't get to ask for special favors. Well, we can. Please, God, why do you make me suffer so? Because I am, you get over it, dipshit. It's doing it to and for itself. It is not motivated by, if I just pray in the right way, oh holy Lord, bring me salvation. See, this is where it's not about religion. It's like, God doesn't care. Because it's just a game. If you want to invest all your time and energy, so I'm going to build the biggest church. And by the way, your church is cool. I went to the top. The bell's pretty loud, but it's a cool church. They won't let me inside. I'd like to go inside because I'm kind of curious to see what's in there, but it's a cool church. I think it's that way, right? Am I pointing in the right direction? That way? All right, it's over there. It's a cool church. Yeah, the big one. With Leif Erikson out front, looking really heroic. Raping and pillaging and conquering. I mean, I don't have anything against them. But it's all a game. It's a game. And there's beauty in the game. And there's passion in the game. But, like, in America, I assume sometimes soon the Super Bowl is happening. I'm not really a football fan. And I know we named the sport wrong. You don't need to explain it to me. I know they don't really use their feet. They throw the damn thing. I don't know why they call it football. Nobody knows why they call it football. But anyway, the Super Bowl is presumably happening sometime soon. Somebody's going to win. And so one group of people will be like, yay! And another group will be like, oh, I'm crushed. But does it really matter? No. And I don't know if you're aware, you probably are because things are the way they are. Bad Bunny is going to be performing. And Bad Bunny, he sings in Spanish. How dare he sing in Spanish? Because we need a true American dude from Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, which makes him a U.S. citizen. But America first, America best, America. Anyway, Bad Bunny's going to sing. He's going to sing in Spanish. So the people who wear the stupid red hats go, Mega! Bad Bunny, you're not a real American! You gotta speak English, motherfucker! Go back to your own country! It's a game, people. It's a game. These identities, they're games. But there are consequences. But does it really matter who wins the Super Bowl? No. Does it really matter that Bad Bunny is an American citizen, but he happens to sing in Spanish and that it pisses some people off and that for some reason they think that he's not really an American, so he should be deported, which is kind of bizarre because that's a paradox. That's an oxymoron. You can't deport someone who's actually, like Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Anyway, the games. And they're endless. And the thing is that through the ego, we invest ourselves very heavily in the game. We lose sight of it's a game. The one being is playing and interacting with itself. It's a game. We are it. Stop looking for it. Stop making excuses for your behavior because you think that, well, this book tells me what it wants me to do, and you're a sinner, and you're a sinner, and you're a sinner. I'm saved. Fucking stop it. So one of the phrases I introduced in my 2009 book, Being Human, is I say, look, we've all been running around like a little bunch of god toddlers. It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. We've had a lot of fun, the raping, the pillaging, whatever. It's been a lot of fun. It's time to grow up. Why did no one know about 5-MeO DMT before this? Well, it's because it's time to grow up. It's just that simple. It's time to grow up. So, let's grow up. And this is the premier tool in reality that exists that doesn't say, here's what I want you to believe, here's the identity that you need to conform to, here is the righteous path. No, this is a tool that we ingest, and then we have to learn how to take responsibility for our experience and what we are and what arises within us and our own blocks and our own bullshit and our own lies and our own pain and our own wounds and our own traumas and our own beliefs, so that we can learn how to, I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to be myself in recognition that I am the one, just as you are the one. And yes, I will continue to play some of the games because games are fun, games are interesting, I enjoy games. But I'm not going to be as invested in the game because I'm more interested in the reality of who and what I am and who and what you are and the unitary nature of what we actually are. So we don't have to be God toddlers anymore. And I know, you know, if you've got kids, you tell your kids, enjoy it now, it only gets worse. Oh my God, it gets so hard when you get to be an adult. And it does. Because there's a lot of responsibility. And it's, you know, it's really easy because you say, God, tell me what to do. Jesus, save me. Allah, pave the path for me. Krishna, just bless me with your divine love. Buddha, do something. Buddha, get off your ass. Dude, Buddha, please. Come on, Buddha. But that's the toddler. That's the toddler that wants to be told what to do, wants to be held, wants to be forgiven, wants to be saved, wants to be enlightened, wants to ascend, want. And the maturation process is the coming into the reality of this is it. I'm it. This is it. Here. Now. This is it. So what am I doing here and now in the it? That is it. That is always it. That is always now. And this is where I guarantee you, religions have absolutely failed us. They've produced a lot of great art, a lot of great architecture, a lot of interesting stories, some good ideas about how to be a good human being, a lot of really fucking awful ideas about how to be a good human being as well. Sometimes some nice music, sometimes like some really awful music, but sometimes like some really cool music. But other than that, the religions have failed us. I guarantee you, they've failed us. The spiritualities, they've totally failed us as well. Especially in the modern day, because they've been co-opted by commercialism and like, you too can look like you're an ascended master. Where do you think you're going, ascended master? Pray tell, where are you going? Oh, what past life were you that makes you so fucking important here and now? Karma's a bitch, dude. You get what's coming to you. They've failed us. They've absolutely failed us because they're just games along with all the rest of the games that are heavily invested in the reality of what they're trying to sell you. Politics. Oh my God, has that failed us? Don't believe me? Come to the United States.
They're coming here soon.
Yeah, I know. Soon to be your neighbor. Fuck. But you know what won't fail us? A molecule. It can't. Because a molecule can only be a molecule. It can only do what it does. So, I put my trust in molecules.
Can I ask you a question about that, Martin?
What about my banana chocolate smoothie, which is also made of delicious tasting molecules? But no. Yes.
I am curious to hear you share, and I've heard you share personally a little bit, but for the group too, like when you have a difficult experience with the molecule, the frame around like it's failing me or I'm failing me, like this is difficult. I'm coming against my trauma or my pain or my thing, and hear you share a little bit about that.
Okay, so for anybody who didn't hear, okay. 5-MeO DMT can be absolutely motherfucking terrifying. At the cosmic level. As in, look, going back to my first experience that I thought, everyone will have this experience like, infinite ecstatic love. I'm so into this. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sometimes it's horror. Okay? Like, I always love, like, full disclosure. Like, be honest. Full disclosure. There is nothing more amazing than an amazing 5-MeO-DMT experience. Full stop. Not every 5-MeO-DMT experience is an amazing experience. It can be hellish. It can be very hard. It can be very, very difficult. But I like to use this analogy that this is an ultimate energetic tool, and it takes us into all of our energy. And that energy, we are beings of energy. And everything that's ever happened to us has an energetic imprint on our being. Every positive thing, every negative thing, everything that comprises the human ego are just structures of energy with which we become habituated and identify with. And a lot of aspects of our ego have been developed out of response to trauma, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, doubt, worry, abandonment, loss, and also the awareness of, like, I'm going to die. That's another big part of the ego, is the knowledge that one day you are going to die, right? And that's where religion and spirituality comes in. It's like, there's an afterlife waiting for you, but you've got so many incarnations. Oh my goodness, they're infinite. Anyway, like I said, the ego asks a question, invents an answer, it's bullshit, but then goes around pretending as though the answer that it just invented is actually true, and then creates a whole religion, society, structure, and history around that nonsense. But anyway, in the process of coming into ourselves and really being fully in our infinite, expanded, energetic nature, the energy of 5-MeO-DMT has the possibility of finding any structure that is not actually in alignment with being open and trusting and in this state of unconditional love, which is the fundamental natural state of being. So, as it works through us, it finds where we might say no, or that hurts, or I'm scared. And I'm not sorry to say that it often takes a tough love approach of not, oh, here's where you hurt, let's make it feel better. But it works in the capacity of, here's where you hurt because you're holding on to it. And do you feel how you're holding on to it? Do you feel how you're holding on? Do you feel how that could actually kill you if you keep holding on to it? So can you choose to let that go? And not everyone is able to choose to let it go. Not everyone is able in the moment to let it go. This is where there's a lot of room for having good guidance, for having good facilitation, for having direct help and energy work when working with 5-MeO-DMT. This is hard to do. It's hard to do on your own. It really, really, really is. Again, some people are lucky. I was super duper lucky. And it's not because I'd never had any traumas or didn't have any pain. 5-MeO-DMT came into my life at a time when I had really made a conscious choice that I've been living a life that is inauthentic for me, and I'm unhappy, and I've been waiting for the universe to conspire to change things. And you know what? It's not going to do it, so I need to do it. And I made the choice that I'm going to change my life. And when 5-MeO first came into my being and experience, I didn't feel that I had anything left to hold on to or anything that I needed to resist. So it was just like, boom, and I was ready to go. And also, I've been lucky. Of course, not everything has gone my way my entire life, but I've never had like a major accident. I've never been through a major trauma. I've never had a major physical abuse or violence or something like that. And so it was easy for me to open And that was the first time. And then the second time, because I had been living a life that was inauthentic, I did have a lot of pain to let go of. And I cried and I wailed like a baby, oh my God. And because I had never told anyone that I was unhappy. I had never told anyone that my heart was closed and that I was hurt. But then it all came pouring out of me. And at first I resisted. In that first few moments of taking that hit of 5-MeO, there was a few other people in the room, and I just blurted out, "I'm holding on, and I don't know why." And they said, "It's okay, Martin. It's okay." So then I said, "Oh, it's okay." And then I wailed, and I screamed, and I cried. And then after all of that, I felt like a baby, and it was like every molecule of my being was just being tickled like that. And I was just like giggling. And then I was on my back, and I was going like that. And it was like the biggest, most amazing cosmic breast ever, just spanning the universe, and I was just suckling right from it. And it was like, yeah, I'm the baby. I was like, because all the love and nourishment I ever needed, it's right here. It's right here because it's all just me, and I have to give it to myself. But going through that process can be really, really hard, and it can be scary. And it's hard, especially if there's a part of the self that has gotten used to, I'm going to protect you by holding this really, really tightly. And especially if that worked at some point, because sometimes we do need to protect ourselves, because it is a game with consequences. There are real consequences. That's part of what makes it an exciting game. That's why reality is actually so much more fun than a dream, right? Because in a dream, something amazing happens. You're like, oh, that was fucking amazing. And you wake up in the morning and you're like, it's just a dream. Like, there's no consequences from that. Or something really bad happens in a dream and you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, thank God that was just a dream. There's no consequences from that. Here, there are consequences that we have to live with because we wake up to the same reality day after day after day after day after day until one day you don't wake up anymore and the game over. You're out. Okay? So, that no can serve us at some point. But if it gets lodged and habituated, then the no is going to come out when it doesn't need to say no. And then maybe it comes out when there's that opportunity to say yes and to have that big expansion. And the going into that and the letting go of that can be hard, it can be painful, it can be difficult. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough that even though there is nothing more beautiful and profound than a 5-MeO DMT experience, it is equally true that there is nothing even remotely as challenging, potentially challenging and scary and terrifying as a 5-MeO DMT experience. So this is, going back, non-dual entheogenic educator. This is what I've been doing for the past 18 years, is trying to educate people about the nature of 5-MeO DMT, because I think it's the most potent, profound tool that exists within reality. But I also want people to have a realistic understanding of what it is and how it works and what it does. Because as this spreads around the world and people become more and more aware of it, what often happens is we get on social media, I went to Tulum last weekend and I went to the Bufo Sanctuary. Nothing necessarily personally against you, Bufo Sanctuary. And I had an amazing experience at Toad. Everybody should do this. And then people post on Instagram, like, living my best life. You know, honestly, it's usually women who do this. Like, no offense to the women, but like the whole social media thing, like, that's my brand. And so then somebody else, like, I'm booking a trip to Mexico because so-and-so influencer did it. And I want to have an amazing experience too. And then no one tells them, this might be horrifying. And no one tells them, there's this thing called reactivations that happens with 5-MeO DMT where it might not happen the first night or the first day, but you might find yourself trying to go back to sleep, and all of a sudden, it's fucking happening again, and it's terrifying. And that goes on every night for 2 weeks, and you think you're losing your mind, and you check yourself into the psychiatric hospital, and you're too afraid to tell them that you took Toad or 5-MeO, and they say, yeah, we need to put you on a psych watch right now. Or you do tell them that you took 5-MeO-DMT or you took Toad, and they say, what's that? No, you're just insane. We need to medicate you. So this is where it's super important that people be educated about it. So again, this is what I've been trying to do. I've been writing books about it. I've been giving talks about it. I've been blabbing on about this on my podcast for 18 years. I've been inviting every guest I can find who has something interesting to say about it onto my podcast and trying to share this. And this week I've been very fortunate to have been invited here to Iceland to work with a select group of people to give them basically some fairly advanced training on how to be more than a babysitter when you're working with somebody with 5-MeO-DMT. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And it just so happens that I've actually always wanted to come to Iceland because I like doing nature photography. And like, it's pretty damn cool here. And I don't mean that in the temperature sense. I mean that in this like, I like the way that the land looks here. And I like the way that the light hits the mountains. And I'm looking forward to exploring this beautiful island a little bit more. And because I'm a total bird nerd, I just have to say that I was super excited the other day when I was out by the waterfront. And it blew my mind that an eagle flew right past. I was like, there's an eagle! Oh my God, there's an eagle! Because, I can share on my phone, like, how many pictures I take of eagles. There's a lot. I'm a little bit addicted to it in that sense. But I've always wanted to come here, and it's been a pleasure. And I've been told, and this very little may be true, that Reykjavik might have the greatest per capita concentration of people who both facilitate and have experienced 5-MeO-DMT than anywhere else in the world. That might actually be true. So this is kind of an interesting place. And at this point, I'm going to theoretically stop talking and kind of open it up to questions and conversation. And then I do want to say that when we wrap up, we're supposed to finish in like a half an hour, I will give you some information about some additional resources from myself and what I do if you want to engage with me more at some other time and venue or point in the future in some capacity. But for now, I would like to just invite comments, questions, engagement, or whatever, and I'm going to have a few more sips of chocolate banana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I answer any of your questions or anything you might like to share or inquire about? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that the experience of people, like, it comes to an end? Like, at some point you have like gone through all the emotions?
Okay. Okay. This is a question that I get asked a lot, and honestly, people tend to have a hard time with my answer. But I'm going to give you my answer. So I went through a process with 5-MeO-DMT. It started with that experience in January of 2008. And during that time period, I had a full dose experience of 5-MeO-DMT once every month or 2 months through the spring of 2009. Also during that time period, I started attending the Santo Daime Church in Ashland, Oregon, which serves ayahuasca. And drank ayahuasca for a ceremony. You drink 3 to 5 times, and I would go maybe 2 times a month to that, which for me was really an augment to continue with my energetic processing. So I spent a lot of time vibrating and throat singing while I was attending the Santo Daime Church. I also did quite a bit of work with Salvia divinorum during that time period. A few sessions with mushrooms, a little bit with DMT, one very important and powerful experience with MDMA. And it's a long story. There's a lot of details to it. If you want all the details, read my book, Being Infinite. That is my memoir that tells this story. But in the spring of 2009, my process came to a point of completion. And this is the simplest way that I can describe it. I accepted the reality that I am God. And trusted that. And I always feel like I got to put in the corollary. That doesn't mean that you aren't too. But it does mean, and this, I'm going to be honest with you, it does mean that I understand that in a way that you do not. And that I have not encountered any other people who understand it and are able to embody and experience it the way that I do. And so in that sense, like people ask me all the time, like, so this was back in 2009, and people ask me like, well, has your thinking about 5-MeO DMT changed since then? Or sometimes they read my book, Einar, where are you? Is he not here anymore? No, Einar. He had my book, Entheogenic Liberation, with him. I wrote that in 2017, and sometimes people ask me, well, has your opinion changed since you wrote that book in 2017? That was almost 10 years ago. And I tell them, no. In 2009, in the spring, I became myself, and I have been myself ever since then. And nothing has changed at that level. And it's interesting, like sometimes I have people who read my book, Mushroom Wisdom, from 2006, and then they read something that was written after 2009, and they say, it's like it was written by a totally different person. I tell them, it's because it was. So in that sense, yes, I think you can actually go all the way through and fully become yourself. And I've been, with the information I've been sharing, has been to try and help people reach that point in themselves. And then people ask me, like, okay, so who's it worked for? And my answer is, like, I haven't found them yet. But that's my answer to your question. Yes. Other comments, questions, concerns, disagreements, whatever? Or have I just left you all stunned? Yes, sir.
I'm not really sure how to ask this. I guess I'm just some personal data, or like it's like you don't know me, so I don't really expect you to be able to give me any kind of personalized advice. That I'm sort of like pondering whether or not this is something that I want to do, 5-MeO. And I'm just like wondering like what kind of person you might or might not like advise not to do this. So like my experience of psychedelics, I've done like a whole bunch of mushrooms, and sort of like looking back on that period, like that did not work out very well for me, because like again, like sort of like looking at who I was at that time, like I was just so full of resistance. Like I was just opening myself up to like these kind of cosmic truths and like parts of my subconscious, and like just like getting it all into my hands, and like without any capacity to actually like do anything useful with it. And I think that probably did more harm than good. So I'm wondering like how maybe 5-MeO might be different than mushrooms in that respect. Like you said, like you have to be able to like surrender, let go, allow all of that. So like, would you say maybe like learn to let go and allow more, or maybe the 5-MeO might help you to learn that, but it might just be terrifying?
Okay. So, this is a very good question. There's a lot of ways that we can answer this. First of all, do you go to sleep at night? Yeah, okay. Every night you go to sleep and you let go and you trust, and reality takes over, and then in the morning you wake up and your ego comes back and you say, hey, cool. And if your ego's like, how did I accomplish that? Right? You do it, okay? Ultimately, taking 5-MeO can be like going to sleep. So in that sense, you don't have to learn how to let go. You actually already know in the deepest sense. And there's also the learning, like as we work with it, we learn like, oh, I'm not letting go. Where can I choose to let go? So there's the advantage of getting the opportunity of actually learning through the process. And just because you've had difficult psychedelic experiences in the past where there was resistance, since you've already expressed that you are aware of that, then that means that you also have awareness that perhaps you could do something differently. Okay? I do like to say that with 5-MeO, because it is so much more powerful and so profoundly different than other psychedelics, in the overall sense, it doesn't really matter if people have any prior experience with psychedelics or not. Like, I've facilitated experiences with 5-MeO DMT from the summer of 2009 to the summer of 2016. And I worked with lots of people who had never taken a psychedelic in their life. And on the other hand, I worked with a lot of people, like the area where I live, there's a lot of ayahuasca served and things like that. I worked with a lot of people who had spent years working with ayahuasca, who thought they knew what a big psychedelic experience was, and their opinion was shattered within a few seconds. So again, it doesn't really matter what your prior experience is. It really matters is what are you bringing into this moment of working with 5-MeO. But ultimately, what I always like to encourage is before deciding if 5-MeO DMT, if you think it is right for you, which again, I feel is a fundamental human right. I think every human being who says, I've learned about it and I want to have this experience, I think that they deserve a shot at having the experience. But I also think it's very important that people educate themselves about it, because this is beyond other experiences. And I don't just mean psychedelics. I mean, it's beyond other experiences. And there's ramifications that come from that. There are after effects that happen. And that puts me in a little bit of a strange situation, because I have written more books about 5-MeO DMT than the entire rest of the world combined. Literally. So usually what that means for me is like, go read some of my books. And the number one book to read would be Entheogenic Liberation. If you're only going to read one, that's the one you should read. There is nothing comparable. But I have produced more information about 5-MeO DMT, again, than really the rest of the world combined. So it sounds a little bit self-referential, but that's because I have dedicated myself to doing this. So if you haven't read Entheogenic Liberation, I say, well, read that first. And then after reading that, if you're like, fuck no, then trust that. Or if you're like, well, I'm still kind of curious, then there's even more information you can get. But I would say start there. Start learning about it, and just be wary, especially when you're going online. Because keep in mind, when people have a positive experience with 5-MeO, they have the same experience that I had, where I was like, I need to tell everyone about this because this is the most amazing thing and I want everybody to have the same experience that I just had. So it's really easy to find very positive accounts of 5-MeO, but the people who didn't have that experience, they don't share as readily because it is difficult. Mm-hmm. It is challenging. And so you can't just go by online surveys of what people say or things like that, or how many people post of like, yeah, Pufa was amazing. Because I guarantee you there are other people out there who's like, this is the worst decision I ever made in my life. I'm so sorry that I did this. So this is one of the bits of information I was going to give at the end, but I'll give it now. Like what I do these days is I also work as a 5-MeO DMT integration coach and guide. So I don't serve the medicine to people. I don't work with people in that capacity anymore. But I get clients from all around the world reach out. They're like, I don't know who else to talk to about this. And I guarantee you, lots of people struggle with their experience. Mm-hmm. And usually the worst experiences are people, they contact me and they say,
Well, just everybody told me it was great. I didn't really know that much about it, so I just thought, hey, I'd give it a try. And now I don't know what's happening. So that's why I always emphasize, educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. Don't just do it. Don't even just do it because you heard me here in this talk and like, wow, well, he seemed to be enthusiastic about it, so I'll go for it. No, educate yourself first. Okay?
I have a question for you. So, through the experience of knowing and finding out that you're God, that brings a lot of responsibility because you realize that you're responsible for everything that's happened in your life, all the paths that you've chosen, all the relationships that haven't worked out, everything that you have, encountered. So maybe that's what is hard about realizing that this is a universal consciousness, is that taking on that responsibility and now knowing that you can choose to work in the light or in the dark. So work in your best interest from now on, or choose to be destructive to yourself.
Yeah.
You really realize, you come to the point where you have free will.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So now you have the possibility to choose. And that's hard.
Yes.
Because we're educated and we're trained to believe that life happens to us. That things are poured onto us and that we don't create them. So there's like a... I'm just like struggling with this responsibility bit of like how you communicate that to people, that with this knowledge comes this responsibility of I do, I make, I create, I have to be conscious about it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you explain that part to people? They're like, I'm God, I can do it all, but I did all the shit that has happened, or,
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of look at that,
Yeah.
and that's when people kind of stop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where, for one, like in my 2009 book, Being Human, I had a whole section on responsibility. And I had some people come back to me with like, I don't like even just talking about responsibility. Like people, like it makes people like, don't tell me I'm responsible. So we already have an issue with that. But when it comes to the ultimate reality game, I do like to remind people that, for one, it also is a multi-character game. So what we want to do is come back to, yes, it's all God, it's all the self doing all of it. So yes, you are, in the largest sense, you are responsible for everything. But the only thing that you really have immediate agency over is this version right here. So you got to bring it back to yourself and find, where am I saying yes? Where am I saying no? Where am I being honest? Where am I telling lies? Where am I projecting? Where am I seeing clearly? So you keep bringing it back to that, back to that, back to that. And then you realize, okay, so I'm also engaging with other versions, other planes, and they may not be clear. They may have their own agendas. They may have their own things. So it doesn't absolve other people of their responsibility, because what it does is it actually says we're all fully responsible. But see, then the megalomania or the narcissist is the one that says, that's right, I'm responsible for everything. I'm doing it all. But that's where the ego co-ops. And that's where we want to pull it back again to, okay, what are the choices that I'm making for myself? And then also, we need to appreciate that as a being of energy, God has made many choices over the eons so that there can be a physical reality in which we live, so that it functions as an ongoing energetic construct that self-maintains itself. So as an embodied version of God, like one time I was giving, a related talk of this at Burning Man, And this guy was like, okay, well, if you're God, I want you to make it rain right now. I was like, dude, it doesn't work that way. He's like, well, if you're God, you should be able to do that. It's like, no, that's just your imaginary notion of what you think God can do. It doesn't work that way. So there's still room for agency on the part of others, and there's still room for, I'm not controlling the weather. Because I'm still an individuated instance of the one universal consciousness. But yes, it does go back to a deep, deep core of I am responsible for myself. I am responsible for my choices and my experience and my reactions. And that also, life also does happen to me, but nowhere am I without agency or responsibility.
True.
And so that can be scary for people, because it can be easier to live life with, it's all just happening to me, it's not my fault, I'm not
just really unlucky.
Yeah, I'm just so unlucky, or I'm just following my bliss. So it's, again, I like to characterize it as a form of maturity. It's a growing up of really recognizing that, there's a lot that I'm responsible for. Yeah.
I have another question, because you seem very enthusiastic, and you call it a human right for everybody to understand, the scope of reality, that we understand that, this is all just our creation. But there also comes a sense of dread with that knowledge.
Yeah.
It comes a sense of dread that nothing really matters. And that you see through it all, and why bother have opinions, because truly it's just all blah.
Yeah.
And there comes like a moment, and I've seen quite a lot of people experience this existential dread of why does it then matter?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is it's a weird space. It's a weird space that people get into, and do you think that giving everybody 5-MeO DMT will be for, if more people did it? Do you think it would create a more loving communities? Do you think it would? Do you think it's helping us? Because the planet is not going to survive by ideology. We know that now.
Yeah.
It's going to survive on the way how we can cooperate and work together. So, are you hoping that through 5-MeO we might realize that we need to work as one body and not individuals? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you going to hotbox the White House?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a we can have a long conversation about a lot of those things that you just mentioned right in there. So a couple of things that I want to jump on is that the last bit, yes, I think that the more we come into that sense of responsibility and awareness, then the more we actually work with each other, because it's less oppositional. Like if I see you as a literal different version of me in a different body, how I treat you is a reflection of how I treat myself. And if I have learned how to love myself with unconditional love and respect and honor and sovereignty, I'm going to want to grant the same thing to you. And if you realize that too, we're going to be able to get along, right?
Because we make it work.
Right.
We just know that we have to get through some differences and, worldviews, whatever, but we will make it work because we are one.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that extends to other living beings, it extends to the planet. And keep in mind also, like when I say that, like I like to say I'm an omnivore. I do look at it's a God world out there, but I'm not moralistic about what you eat, or that, I don't think that just because we're all one doesn't mean you have to be a vegetarian, because like plants, those are God too. Like no matter what you eat, you're eating God. Okay? You can't get away from it. You cannot absolve yourself of the fact that you will eat God, because all life feeds on life. So creation and destruction is all part of the process. It is not like, there will never be destruction. Creation and destruction are all part of the process. But how do we enter into it consciously and with awareness of, because what matters is our experience now matters. So first, let me just tell you a spiritual story. Here's a spiritual story. A long time ago, your soul was incarnated, and it has now crossed billions of lifetimes through which you are seeking to grow and learn and become more spiritual and aware. And at some point in time, you will become fully enlightened, and then you will ascend beyond the material realm, and you will live in a constant state of bliss and knowledge and power. And that is the meaning and purpose of your life. Nice fucking story. It's not true. So the other side of that is, you know what? It's all God. It's always been God. You are not some kind of incarnation across lifetimes or each some kind of magical avatar status. You are God pretending to be a human being. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. Mm-hmm. And that seems to wipe out all sense of meaning. But again, the fact that Neda brought me a banana chocolate smoothie is meaningful because I want it and I like it and it tastes good and it nourishes me and I appreciate the kind gesture. Meaning derives from how we treat each other in the moment, not you have now ascended to master level. Thank you. You will be rewarded in the afterlife for giving me a banana smoothie. Meaning happens through the reality of the exchange that we have by the encounter with each other as one. That's where meaning happens. But a lot of people who have a 5-MeO experience do struggle with nihilism. Mm-hmm. Nothing means anything. Or just existential anxiety of, well, if there's no reward, what's the point of being good? Well, it actually makes you happier. It does. You lead a better, healthier, more meaningful life if you are a good person and if you treat others with kindness and love and respect. Versus if you want to be a fucking MAGA Nazi and go around like, oh, all the immigrants are bad, all the trans people are ruining society and we got to take it over. Yeah, Trump! That warps your reality. It turns you into a fucking awful person, and we're being inundated with that in American society. And the level of cruelty and ugliness is, I've never seen it in my lifetime of what's happening in the United States right now. Mm-hmm. And it's not that God is saying any of it is good or bad, because it's all the fucking game. It's just the game. But our lived experience, I mean, the stuff that's happening on the streets in the United States right now, that's not happiness. That's not some golden age of ideal bliss and wonder. Like, people are hurting. People are traumatized. That's the reality of how people are interacting with each other. And they're interacting through identities and egos and ideologies that are attached to false narratives and lies and illusions without any real knowledge that this is God interacting with itself. Mm. And it can do a lot fucking better than what it's doing right now. And there doesn't have to be a cosmic purpose or meaning or end game behind that. It's just the reality of, like, if you're going to play in the playground, don't be a fucking dick. Don't be an asshole. Play in the playground in a way that's nice. Don't be a bully. We have a bully for president right now. Mm-hmm. And do you think he's a happy person inside?
No.
Do you think he is secure and relaxed and feels that he is good? It's good? Life is good?
He's obviously desperate.
No, he's obviously desperate. This is a man in a great deal of pain.
Yeah.
A great deal of anxiety, a great deal of worry. Because the more you have to pop up the false image of the ego, the more energy you have to expend into that, and then the more fragile the fucking thing is. I have never seen a public figure with a more fragile, weak, pathetic ego than the current president of the United States right now. But we all have to deal with it. And that's where things do matter. Mm-hmm. Personal responsibility matters. Mm-hmm. Our ability to connect with others from a place of heart rather than a place of ideas or ideologies or ego, it really, really matters. And unfortunately, we do not currently have leadership that inspires that, and others that inspires the exact opposite of that. Hate, division, cruelty, lies, ignorance. The antidote to that is truth, clarity, reality, love, and connection. Anyway, pontificating, I don't consider that to be a political statement. That's just reality. Okay, we have, oh my God, it's 1:30. It's 1:30. I'll be around for a bit if you want to chat, if you want to talk. I would just like to give you a few things before we go. One is, if you like conversations about this kind of stuff, my podcast, The Entheogenic Evolution, you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, whatever. It's out there. Been doing it for 18 years. 2, you can find my books under Martin W. Ball. If you like music, you can find my music under Martin Ball, just not the Christian Martin Ball. You can find me there. You can find on Spotify, I do have my 5-MeO DMT extended session playlist, which features my own music, and I've got, my psychedelic dance party playlist music. I've been making music a long time, so I've got a lot of music out there. Let's see, what else? I offer 30, 60, and 90-minute integration calls with clients. I work with people with all psychedelic medicines, but I always say, look, my approach is a non-dual energetic approach. If you're looking for somebody to help you integrate from like a spiritual or shamanic or astrological perspective, don't bother coming to me because I'll tell you no. So I do video call sessions with people. That's one of my main outlets these days. I do like to work with international clientele. I also teach with the Mindscape Psychedelic Institute. We largely teach online classes so that we can work with people around the world, like including people here in Iceland. That's how I ended up here. We have the Trauma-Informed 5-MeO DMT Facilitator Training course that, again, it's taught online, and then there are opportunities for in-person training and experiential work, and that varies from where that meets. So, for example, I'm here in Iceland. This is kind of for graduates. This isn't actually technically part of the program, but we've had people meet in Colorado and in Iowa and then potentially other places. Also, through Mindscape Institute, I teach this is just my own course, but the Facilitator Training course, I'm one of the main teachers, but we have several other teachers in the course as well and lots of guest lecturers. I also, for just myself, I teach my 5-MeO DMT Integration Specialist Training course, and this is a class to teach people who want to give integration support for clients who have had 5-MeO DMT experiences. One of my recent books is 5-MeO DMT Integration, Embodying Non-Duality is Not What You Think. And I make the argument that 5-MeO DMT is so different from other psychedelics that really we need a specialized training and tools for helping to integrate it, because it's not like other psychedelics, and we can't use standard psychedelic integration practices and make meaningful progress with integrating 5-MeO DMT. So I help train people. In that next class starts May 4th. That's also, it's only online. And I know that I'm in Oregon, West Coast United States. It's 8-hour time difference, but I have had students from Iceland in the class. I know it's hard because it keeps them up really, really late, but all the classes are then recorded and the videos are made available online, so if you can't make it into the actual class in the time period. I'm happy to give you more information about that, but you can find information on that at my website, nondualentheogenicintegration.com, or just my personal webpage, martinball.net. What else? Is there anything else that I wanted to cover?
Your books are available on audiobook?
Yeah. Yes, my books are available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. If you get the audiobook versions of my books, you also will get my original music in there, because it's a fun excuse for me to integrate my music into books. Because why not? Because I can do it. Because everything I do is self-produced. I'm self-published, self-produced. I I'm not beholden to any publishers or anything like that, which also means that if you want to support the work that I do invite people to come to my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/MartinWBall. And there's memberships there from $1 a month up to $100 a month. And at $100 a month, I have a 1-hour video call check-in with that patron. I have people come that want ongoing support or ongoing mentorship. And of course, there's no obligation of Patreon. You can change it or cancel or come and go as you please. You can also just follow me on Patreon for free. Instagram, Martin W. Ball. You'll see my photographs and art. Facebook, Martin W. Ball. You got to use the W. I do a lot of bird and nature photography, so if you dig that kind of thing, then I do invite you to follow me on Facebook, because I post a lot of photos, because this is what I do, is when I'm not talking about 5-MeO or working with people, is I am out, usually with my 12-year-old son, and I'm doing nature photography while he is fishing somewhere in Oregon or California or wherever we happen to be traveling in the world. That's what I do. And if you just want to take a look at this is the glossary. Again, I just brought one copy just in case people wanted to see it. And for anybody who wants it, I got a sticker of some of my art. These are a little bit old, but I'll just pass these around. If you want a sticker or two, please go ahead and take a sticker or two. And thank you, Reykjavik. Iceland's fucking awesome. You guys are great.